Welcome back to the Agent Goldmine, the show where we take agents from $100,000 a year to $200,000 a year just by listening to this just amazing content we're about to throw at you. If you didn't know, my name's Shelby Johnson. This is Garced, and we are your hosts. We are two icon agents. We've closed literally hundreds of transactions as agents or team leaders or investors. Any of those hats combined, hundreds. Anyway, so today is actually going to be part two because the part one was me just hopping on. Last time I hopped on and was like, Allie, I was going to ask you all these questions offline. And then I was like, might as well just record it. And so I asked about her process for booking buyer clients, like on that intro call, how it works, her system, her flow, what she goes through on the call exactly. And at this point, so if you haven't watched that, go back and listen to the one before this. You can also see it on the Agent Goldmine on YouTube. Head on over there, give us a little subscribe.
Welcome to the Agent Goldmine, the only podcast in the world specifically for real estate agents who are stuck at 5 transactions a year to help them get to 20 plus. Your hosts, Allie Garced and Shelby Johnson, two EXP icon agents, each do over 40 transactions a year and interview others who are crushing it. In this podcast, you'll receive the knowledge to help you scale your business using systems and processes with our interviews and monologues twice a week. If you want to be a part of our community, reach out. Welcome to the show.
Anyway, so I'm just going to hop right back into where we left off last time, which is, so at this point, you had just finished your Zoom. You had given them next steps, which included you were going to email them the buyer broker. You were going to, once they sign, you were going to send them your unlisted videos on the home buying process, et cetera. And you had already set up their property cart, listing cart for them to check out. And that is where we left it. So my question to that is, if this person, because we didn't go through like the financial, we didn't go through the lender piece. We went through a little bit like pre-call. If they were already pre-qualified, then they would send you the pre-approval letter. But hypothetically, they're not. I would like to know your system with your lender. Is there a group chat involved? Do you do an email handover? How does that process work in the weeds?
Anytime I can avoid email, I do.
Oh, that's true. Allie hates email. I love email shit.
Email owns me.
Yeah.
I have no control over my email.
I have been actually in your email, in your inbox to try to,
And you
spent
still
a lot of
have
time in there
access to my email. If you wanted to pull it up, and you could. It's so funny. So as soon as the Zoom call is over, the first thing I do is I make sure that the houses that we went over were actually emailed, because sometimes I just didn't click send or whatever. So I just want to make sure that I've given them homework so that way they can start working at the same time that I'm working. When we're done with the call, that is when I go on my email and I send buyer email number 2. In buyer email number 2 has my 3 preferred lenders, and that has the example of what the buyer broker agreement looks like, because at the same time, my TC is sending them the buyer broker if she hasn't already for them to sign. So they also get, in that buyer email number 2, they also get an example of what the contract looks like, the purchase, and the form of all of the special addendums. Like if you wanted to waive any sort of contingency or do non-refundable earnest money or anything like that, that's what the form is. So that way they can start thinking creatively, like, how else can I get my offer accepted aside from just lowballing? And then it kind of just gives them like the unlisted video series of, this is what it means to be under contract. This is how many days Arizona gives for inspections. These are the inspections that my clients typically like getting, which is everything. Let me just, I have my buyer email number 2 pulled up here, which, by the way, if you're listening to this, I have done the buyer email number 2 before on this podcast. So search buyer series on the Agent Goldmine. I give everything away. And so at that point, once I have them have the ability to reach out to all 3 lenders. And at this point, some lenders don't want a just sudden group chat. So either that day or maybe like the day after, I'll start a group chat with a lender, especially if they end up choosing one. That's the one that I will start the group chat with. Because again, anytime I can avoid email, I do. Oh man. So I try just to do text message. So in the group chat, I'll have the clients, me, and the lender. On the back end, non-client facing, I use WhatsApp with my TC. I got her on there. And I have a new group chat for every single contract. Um, Up until we go under contract for a specific property, then it's just in like the main WhatsApp chat, but just between me and her. No lender involved there. It's just like me and the TC that we talk about like all these different properties all day, every day. So at that point, I've introduced them to the lender and I have my saved text message in my iPhone where I type in the, lender with an extra R or whatever. And then it pops up the entire phrase. So it's like, hey, just doing the introduction. At that point, the preferred lenders typically always have a saved response back. And it's like, oh, you're working with the best of the best in Tucson. I'm so glad you're working with Allie. Like, it's so funny. Like, when is a good date and time to call? So that way they have their homework. They're looking at the houses that I sent them. They're signing the buyer broker that the TC has sent them. They're looking at the email that I sent them. So, and then the next day I follow up just to make sure that they made contact and how it's going. Typically the lender will call me and say, they're really fast. They got me everything I needed, or we're already, we're able to make comms, or I'm struggling, and that way I bring them back to life.
Okay. Do you continue the group chat going with the lender throughout? Okay. So, and just before you answer that, so I'm trying to, like I said last time in this video, the whole reason for my questions is to see how you do things and see what I want to bring into my own business to tweak how I'm currently doing things. Because right now I am an email girl. So I have my like superhuman, template that whenever they need a lender, I have like my 3 lenders that I've already been like, hey, like there's, you can pick whoever you want. But I don't trust them to reach out, like, trust. And then I should trust my lender to maintain the control. Like that's my partner. So I do the email to the lender, CC the clients, like say it's the same thing. It's like, hey, like they're just starting their home buying process. They're, VA, will you please reach out? Here's their contact information. And then so that connects them all. And then what's next is on the back end, the lender is like texting me like, hey, we locked in a date for this is where we're at with this. And then after they call, he does like a voice message of like, hey, here's what went down. And then he will CC me on like as soon as like he's done initial, he always does like 3 different, the one I normally, clients normally end up choosing, does like 3 different like breakdowns for like numbers. And it's like a whole, like, it's really cool. And it has like a little video of him like explaining everything, personalized. So anyway, he CCs me on that so I can see that too and like save it to their profile and follow up us. But the whole reason why I'm asking this is because he hasn't done it, but he asked me in the beginning, he's like, hey, do you want to do like a group chat with the client, like the 3 of us? And in my mind, I'm like, I already have a group chat with the client and probably their spouse. Cause it's usually the 3 of us and we're talking about things outside. And like, I don't want another freaking group chat if I don't need one, but I'm curious because I know that some people are really big on like the lenders being in the chat or even like the TCs all being in the same chat. So that's where this comes from. And to loop it all the way back to my actual question, it's, do you keep the group chat with the client going as like active throughout the process?
I do. Yeah. So I do have a group chat with me and the clients and another one with me, clients, and lender. So, and then if they end up, not using the lender, then we just go back to the group chat of me and the clients. I've never had a client request otherwise or be like, hey, this is too much. So up until now it's working and I feel like it just helps both sides. It helps unite me and the lender. So that way they don't ghost, like that way they don't tell the lender one story and they're telling me a different one. Like, hey, I submitted all my docs and the lender's like, no, he hasn't, like, which happens like kind of frequently.
Right. Too often, honestly.
Yeah. So at this point, it's like, hey, we're all a team. So we could be cool.
One team, one fight.
Yeah.
I think that's like a military thing, like an army thing.
I think
maybe. So. I almost said like hua at the end, which like I thought I would never say again. And I hate myself now. That's fine. Can we move on quickly?
Let's move on. 10-4. Kill myself.
I know, totally. Okay. No, that does make sense. And I will consider it. I literally have like a whole list of notes of like considerations now that I have to reflect on and see if I want to become more Allie in my business or if I want to keep it. And that's one of those things. So for you out there listening, everyone runs their business differently. And it is up for you to decide how to do that. And so I know that one of the challenges coming in as a new agent is people are just like, I just want to be told what to do.
Mhm.
And that's fine. Allie can tell you exactly what she does. I can tell you exactly what I do. It doesn't ultimately matter. You have to find what's best for you, your authentic self, and the flow that makes the most sense with you and other people within your business, because you are not just working with Allie's lender who likes to do things a certain way. You have your own lender who has their own preferences, and humans are complex. So, all to say, there is not one size that fits all. And I'm sorry to tell you that, but that's the reality. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. Next question. So we talked about, okay, the next one. At this point, you have sent the clients their listing card, their properties to choose and go through and whatever. Now, what happens from there? Are they like in your group chat, like texting you like, oh, I like this one. I like this one. And then are you like doing a pre-screen like before you show? I know that you have that thing, which if you go back and watch the buyer series, like Allie does have like pull up Google Maps, pretend like you're walking down the street, drive by the house at night. Like she has all these things that I'm not going to go into in detail. But like my question to you, Allie, is are you pulling seller disclosures ahead of time? Like, are you doing preemptive? I don't know, just a little bit more behind the scenes with like your process before you actually show property.
Yeah, good question. And I realized that I should have mentioned this in the last episode. So I set the expectation in the Zoom call. So at the end, as I talk about agency and signing the buyer broker, compensation, and what the next steps are, that is where I say, okay, as you find properties that you find interesting, make sure that, like you said, number one, if you're in the area, drive in the neighborhood, drive past the house. You won't be able to go inside without me, but drive past the neighborhood because there's no point of looking inside if you don't like the outside. If you're not in the neighborhood, then go on maps.google.com, drop the little yellow guy, virtually walk the neighborhood. Could you see yourself, would you see yourself living there? Number two is look at the school district and look up the crime maps. Crimegrade.org is one of my favorites. If you want to go above and beyond, call the local police station and just make sure, like, what are the most common crimes? How fast can you respond? Those are like the number two questions. And so once it meets all of that, and you're like, you know what, this is a property where on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like at least a 7. I could see myself making an offer on this. At that point, start collecting it and send it to me once you have like I mentioned before, that 5 to 7 properties that are like just the top 5 to 7, like these are it. Send it to me once you have that small list, and 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 then at that point, what I will do is once I have that list, what I'm going to do is look on behind the scenes. I'm going to look at the MLS and I'm going to see any and all documents that the listing agent attached. Sometimes they attach a lot. Sometimes they don't attach shit. And at that point, if they don't, which is kind of common, I will reach out to the listing agent and ask them. I'm going to ask them for the seller disclosure. Have they ever had to file an insurance claim? What for? Was it fixed? How old is the roof? I will give you as many details as possible to include, is the seller paying toward the buyer agent compensation? That can change with our offer, but initially, are they even open to it? Or is it a hard stop no that they would never? So at that point, we can cross it off the list, unless you're willing to pay for the entire thing, which totally fine. So that way, that's like the conversation that I have with the buyer. So that way they know I have homework before I just start shooting her stuff. If they forget and they just shoot me stuff, then I will just revert back to that. Okay, great. Have you looked up crime, police station, walk the neighborhood, driven past the house? And then, so that's when I will start, like once they've signed the buyer broker, that's what it's contingent upon. Like, hey, awesome, you started sending me properties. The buyer broker hasn't yet been signed yet, so I can't do any work at this point. Like, I have to put my attention toward the other clients that have decided to name me as their one and only real estate agent. And they understand. Like, it doesn't like sound, it may sound cocky the way that I'm saying it now, but I don't know. That's the way that I tell them. I'm like, hey, I can't right now. So choose an agent.
When you are consolidating your information, when they have their list, they've done their homework, they've walked the little yellow dude down the street and whatever, and you are doing your information, are you like collecting docs and throwing it into like a Google Drive and sharing like additional docs link with like a little folder for each property and the stuff in there? Or how do you, what is your process for transferring information to the buyer?
Yeah, I do I think this is typically because clients end up like not usually collecting 3 to 5 properties. They usually find like one. So after they sign the buyer broker and I have a copy of it, then at that point I will send an email to both or all buyers and with all the attachments. That's it. I don't really start a drive. I don't. First of all, I'm running out of drive space and I don't know how that's possible. So
I am too. And yells at me like every day. I'm like, dude, stop.
It's so annoying. So plus the first one that they see is usually not the one that they end up wanting to place an offer on.
Right.
So it's just more work on my end. So I'll just like download everything, attach it to an email. I will read over everything, of course, and I'll let them know what the highlights are, but I have them like, please read over everything in case I miss something.
Totally.
But I'm like, hey, look at this. They had water damage. They have termites. Well, every property has termites. XYZ. Just let you know, please let me know what else you find on this. Do we want to continue?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, my process currently is the Google Drive system, which I'm like, is that what you do? Because that's what I do. So I have like when a new buyer client or a new seller client like pops into my world, then I send it to my VA and she has a process for like new buyer client, new seller client, and which I think we kind of went over this in my listing process. But, she'll start the WhatsApp chat and like update the icon to either buyer or seller and like update follow-up boss to link it with the buyer's checklist or the seller's checklist, and then also create a drive for each client. And that's where I put, all the stuff for me to hold, but also like there's a client facing one. So like contract docs, inspection reports, like all of that stuff in there for them. But in the beginning, before they have that, because it's not under contract yet, there is like an additional information folder where I'll just like reach out to my VA and be like, hey, this property. And she'll go in and like to the MLS and pull the docs and put them in there so we can share the Google link to the client being like, hey, here's the additional information on. But I mean, if they want it after hours and Jessica's not working, it is very tedious.
Yeah.
Without my VA, I'm like, God, this sucks.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So
and sometimes too,
curious.
like if I'm not near a computer where I can email all the attachments at once, if I'm on my phone only, then I'll just go on the MLS and download it to my phone and just text them in the group chat.
Yeah.
With or without the lender, depending on who they're using. Yeah, it's just like that part is kind of sloppy only because we haven't narrowed it down yet, especially in the beginning, like when they're not serious too much yet. It's just, here you go.
Totally. And
I'm never going to see it again.
Right. Now that I'm like working with my little first time home buyers again, I've like very much refreshed on the process that like it is a learning stage for them too. It's like the first showing is like their first showing. And so, it's like the eyes are so wide and you're like, they're, oh my God. And I'm like talking about like the roof and how it's expensive as shit. They're just like, ah. So, but don't scare them, whatever. I think we've actually done a show on showings before, haven't we? Like how to actually do showings. I think we both have.
Yeah.
Dude, there, not to toot our own horn, but there's a lot of information on this podcast.
There really is though. Like there really is. At this point, I feel like you can put any freaking topic on this podcast and you will find it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
If you're looking to change brokerages this year so you can increase your business and you want to join us at eXp Realty and would like either myself, Ali Garced, or Shelby Johnson to personally sponsor you in, so that way you have access to 2 icon agents, text the word JOIN to either my number, 914-318-4918,
or Shelby's number, 859-267-3849.
If I sponsor you and you have access to the both of us and everything that's Five Pillars Nation, we have the checklist, the systems, the processes to help you scale your business. And don't take our word for it. We've had agents switch brokerages to join us that were stuck making $300,000 GCI, and they join us so they can scale. So text the word join to those numbers and we'll take the next steps.
But anyway, okay. So I'm trying to reel this back in now. I'm like, we're off the rails right now. Let's see. Okay, wait. So we talked about picking property. We talked about research beforehand. You said that you don't have an issue with maximum showings because you've already like set expectations that this is like your top 5 or less. And by the time they've already self-narrowed, it's like down to like 1 or 2 anyway. Okay, my next question is, which actually might be the last one for this. Maybe 2 more. If the client is not there, which right now you're not there, you're in a different state. Your clients may or may not be in Tucson. They might be coming in. So hypothetically, they're relocating to Tucson. Let's just pretend you're the one doing the video walkthrough, because I don't want to get into the whole can of worms of having another agent do it for you. But so you're doing the video walkthrough. What are your tips, guidance, whatever, on how do you do a video walkthrough for someone relocating? Do you do it live? Are you recording this? Like, what is your process? Everything.
Good question. Right before I answer that, I probably should also note that as soon as we jump off the Zoom call and I do the homework of what I just said, I will put a note on my calendar for the next day to check in and say, did you receive the email? Because chances are it went to junk. They probably didn't open junk. Like,
Right.
just to make sure, did you get it? And what filters can I change? Because I want them to start looking at my website. Anyway, so after that, once I start looking at properties, I will go out there on my own, or when I used to physically go out there, I'll go out there on my own time. I will not FaceTime. I will not do a live recording. And that started because some spots of Tucson are so bad when it comes to service. And I don't have Verizon. Verizon's the one that's like, because it's so expensive. Anyway, whatever. So a lot of areas that my clients tended to like just had such spotty service. So it started because I just didn't have service out there. So there was no point. It was just frustrating for everyone. So I go out there on my own phone. I record on my iPhone. And I make sure that each video is no more than 1.5 minutes, because if it's longer than that, it's going to take so long to send from iPhone to iPhone, or iPhone to even worse, like Android. And like, that's no shade on Android. That's shade on Apple to not share. So I make sure that each walkthrough video is on the shorter side. And I kind of like talk out loud during it. So I have one as I'm driving up to the property. So like, hey, this is what the street looks like. You probably already seen it on Google Maps. But this is what the street looks like today. And I kind of do like almost like a 360 of like, if they were to look outside from their property, I do a full sweep. So that way they can see what their neighbors are across the street. And then I do like walking into the driveway, opening up the door. And I just do like I get all the houses or all the rooms up, down. I don't forget the ceiling, don't forget the floors. Anytime there's a crack or anything like negative, then I will focus in on that. I will zoom in on that. Like, you will not know that this house doesn't have cracks, like, because the last thing I want for clients to say is, oh, they just painted a pretty picture. She just wanted a commission. So I'm like pretty negative on these showings. I'm like, this dog next door won't shut up. Can you hear it? And, or like, wow, they're, whatever it is. Like, I haven't really run into a lot of smelly properties. And that's mainly because probably I don't have a good sense of smell. But if it is really strong, then I will tell them, of course, because I'm their ears and nose on foot on the ground. And then I got the photo of the backyard. And as I'm driving out, typically also, if my buyers are military, I will go on like my maps on the app, and I will screenshot like I will find the distance from the property to the base. How far is it right now? Just in case they haven't done it yet. By the way, we are now looking at around 30-minute drive to base. So that way, again, there's like no confusion. And that's it. Then I'll send them all one by one in the group chat. That one's likely without the lender. And I think that's it.
Okay. And I think that's actually a really good point, what you said about the Google Maps, the screenshotting the distance. And it doesn't just have to be military. Like, ideally, where they're going to work. If they're relocating, you've already had this conversation and you already know what's important to them in regard to like, I need to be close to my school, to my gym, to my grocery store, whatever. And I think that that's a really thoughtful, nice touch. Because this is just me like literally struggling because technology, but I was like trying to do that ahead of time for a showing that we were going to. And I don't know why I couldn't get Google Maps to like figure out that I wanted this to be my location and then like search nearby. It kept searching for my current location. And granted, I probably shouldn't even be sharing this story because someone's going to be like, Shelby is fucking dumb as shit. Also, I shouldn't be cursing. I'm not cursing
I'm telling
anymore.
your mom.
I'm not cursing anymore.
What's your mom's name, Shelby? I'm going to write her a letter.
Belinda.
Oh, cool. Belinda.
Yeah, her name was Belinda Osborne, and then her initials were BO, which I thought was hilarious. Freaking smelly girl.
That's funny because you always smell your armpits. That's why it's a full circle.
Right. It's full circle. Also, shout out to Chris AIDS. Is that AIDS? ADES? How do I say that?
I think so. I think it's AIDS.
Chris, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your last name, but he was like laughing at me being like, I am trying not to curse as much. And he was like, I'm trying to curse more. And I was like, whoa, dude.
Really?
Yeah. Chris, get your curse words on, sir. Yes. Anyway, moving on. Video walkthrough. We just did that. That's awesome and very helpful. And hold on. Can you hear that coming in?
Shelby's getting a call.
I am getting a call, but I'm
Hello, Shelby's assistant.
Sometimes like people can't hear things that are happening on my computer.
Yeah, I usually can't, but I heard that one.
So I was like, okay, but now it's Follow Boss because I use a CRM now. It's amazing. I didn't for so long. Okay.
Are you getting sick? Your voice sounds raspy.
No, it's just because I slept in today and I haven't already done like a full day's worth of activity, which is normal by the time we start recording.
Yeah.
I took a rest day from the gym because we have the last day of the open tomorrow and I need to be rested. So
you're weak, Shelby. You're weak. Rest day.
Yes. Okay, I think this is it for today. I have a couple more questions, so we might do a part 3 on this. And actually, listeners, I would love to know if this is valuable for you because this is literally just me being selfish and wanting to ask the questions and then recording it and hoping other people like it too. So if you do like it, please let us know. Allie is at Allie the agent _ in between the words. Oh my God. ALI on Instagram. I nailed that. And then I'm perfect. And otherwise, Allie, anything?
Be a bro and share this show. We mean it.
Goodbye.